Hi, my name is Tina Chairez, and welcome to Women's Well. I have the privilege of sharing a devotional with you today, and our devotional is entitled Having a Mary Heart in a Martha World. I know many of you have read the story in the scriptures about two sisters named Mary and Martha. And I chose to discuss this passage or reflect on it rather because it's something that I'm working towards. I can tend to be a Martha, very busy, and miss the moments and opportunities where I could be and should be being a Mary. And so I've been studying out these scriptures, and I just wanted to share with you some of the reflections that I've had and ways in which I'm working to be more of a Mary. So please read with me in Luke 11, starting in verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Martha has chosen what is best, and it will not be taken away from her. Wow, what an interaction, right? So we see here in the scripture that these two sisters have invited Jesus to their home. You know, it's important to note that Jesus was no stranger to Martha, Mary, or their brother Lazarus. They had been friends for some time, and the scriptures tell us in 3 different accounts that Jesus had visited them at least 3 times in their home. So they were probably really comfortable and close to Jesus, and he probably enjoyed, well, I would assume, enjoyed their company. And we see that, Martha is the meticulous hostess, right? She's very conscientious, she's very considerate, and she wants to make things extra special and encouraging for Jesus while he's visiting. And through her preparations, we see this progression of her becoming frustrated with her sister and wondering, why am I in here doing all the work and she's out there having all the fun, right? So she, it seems, began to be frustrated, annoyed maybe, and then she challenges Jesus and says, don't you care that my sister isn't helping me? Tell her to help me. You know, when I read that sentence, I always would think to myself, wow, Martha was so bold that she would have the audacity to challenge and question Jesus. You know, questioning him, do you care about me? And then challenging him to tell her sister to help her. And Jesus is so gracious, right? And he probably just put his hand on her shoulder and said, Martha, Martha, a mild and loving rebuke. And he lets her know, you are way too worried. Your sister is sitting at my feet. She has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. You know, when I read this passage, I think about my own life because I am definitely by nature a Martha. You know, I can be easily consumed with doing good things and the right things, but not always having the right heart. And sometimes those good and right things that I'm doing take away from what I really should be doing. You know, Martha was really critical and judgmental towards her sister Mary. She felt like she was doing all the work and that Mary was having a good time in the presence of Jesus and that she should be helping her. You know, some might sympathize with Martha and agree that it was rude or maybe disrespectful for Mary to not be helping. But, you know, when you think about it, this is God in the flesh. You know, he is in their home, in their presence. And I think that Mary had wisdom. She had the discernment to think, I love Jesus. I want to learn from him. I know about him. I know who he truly is. He is coming to my house. I need to be sitting down at his feet and learning from him. I think she had the wisdom to do that. And that is what she was doing in those moments. And, you know, I can be, like I said, like Martha. You know, when I think about spending time with God, I love having quality time in a quiet place, in a clean place where I'm just able to focus and be still. And although that is important to me and I value that, I sometimes don't get to have those special times because I am distracted, like the scripture says about Martha. You know, I can say, okay, this morning I'm going to read about Martha and Mary at 8 a.m. That is my plan. But when the morning comes around, I'm like, oh, wait, okay, so before I start reading, I'm going to put a load of laundry in the washer so that while it's washing, I can connect with God. And when I get out, it'll be one less thing I have to do. Oh, wait, but I should probably also load the dishwasher, and those things can both be going on at the same time, and then I don't have to do that later. And I should probably get back to that sister. Maybe I should text her really quick so that I don't have to do that later, and I can not have to think about it while I'm spending time with God. And I'm going to return that quick email, and then I'm going to be free and ready to focus. And then by the time I actually am ready to connect with God, the kids are, you know, no longer occupied, everybody's hungry, and I have a Zoom meeting any minute. And I think about that because more times than not, that can be the function of my life. Where I'm doing good things, like Martha, she was preparing a meal for Jesus. That was so encouraging. But she felt like that preparation was more important than actually sitting at his feet and hearing his words. I would imagine that while she was in his presence, I don't think she was too far from where Mary was. She probably was hearing a little bit of what was happening, but she was too focused on serving him rather than learning from him. And I can be that way. I want to create this certain atmosphere. So I'm more concerned to consume with that instead of being in the presence and saying, you know what, the dishes, the laundry, the responses to that email or phone, all that can wait. It is my time to connect and be still. All those things will still be here when I am done. What about you? You know, maybe it's things for work that are constantly going on in your mind and you aren't able to get to a place to where you say, you know what, this has to wait. I want to connect. You know, maybe it's school. Maybe you're in school and you have work to do or class assignments and you are so consumed with that that you miss out on that time of sitting at Jesus' feet. You know, I love that the scripture says that Mary was sitting at his feet listening to what he said. I love that. It's so beautiful and it's so needed and it's so important. You know, maybe it's that you're home because we're all home more these days, and maybe you're just vegging out on Netflix or on you know, Facebook, and the time gets away from you and you forget to connect, and then you feel defeated and you don't try again. I don't know what it is. For all of us, we have different lives and different experiences, but for me, I am learning through these scriptures that, you know, choose what is best. We live in a Martha world. Things are always competing for our time, our energy, our efforts. But I'm learning that what's going to give me the strength to fulfill those things is my centeredness in God and sitting at the feet of Jesus through worshiping him, through his word, through singing. I am not a singer, but I like to try. Through me taking notes and just being still. And so those are some things that I am learning. You know, one of the most important things I'm learning is found in the scriptures, in Matthew 6 verses 33, and it reads, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." You know, sometimes I am not seeking first the kingdom and righteousness, right? I am seeking to attain these tasks that I have prepared for myself so that in my mind, I will be free to seek God first, when really I should be seeking him first. And then that's going to give me the strength to fulfill the other things that I need to do. Also, I love the scripture in Matthew 22. And I appreciate this passage because it shares with us the greatest commandment, right? Which is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And I think that is also a great depiction of how we can be a Mary and a Martha world. The Matthew 22 scripture is a great reflection of Mary, whereas the Matthew 6 passage, verses 25 through 34, talk about all the things we worry about. And then Jesus says, don't worry about those things because God knows that you need them. And I think with Martha and Mary, Martha was so worried and so distracted. And I think her frustration led her to have a terrible day, rest of her day probably. Whereas Mary was able to sit at Jesus' feet and to learn and to glean from him. And so I hope that through this story and you rereading it on your own, you will discover ways in which in your life you have maybe been like a Martha and you desire to be like a Mary, and how you can. And hopefully you can find scriptures, as I did, that help me and remind me to seek first God and his kingdom, to let the things that are not what is best wait, and also to love God more than anything and allow that to motivate me, that I can do and overcome and accomplish the things that I am desiring to, because I have God with me. Martha and Mary both loved God and they have both had a real faith. One of them just chose what was better. And I don't want to miss out on choosing what's best, which is God and his presence and connecting with him. Hope this devotional was helpful for you.